Hi, this is Gurasi Singh, and you're listening to my Thick Accent podcast. So imagine stepping into a world where collaboration fuels success, where the spirit of unity propels you forward instead of holding you back. In countries like India, where I come from, we often navigate the competitive landscape solo, striving to carve our own paths amidst fierce competition. However, things take a turn as we step onto the shores of opportunity in places like Canada. And our guest today is a testament to this shift in perspective. He advocates shedding the crab in the bucket mentality, where success is seen as a limited resource. In this land of opportunities, he emphasizes the transformative power of collaboration. One person's knowledge, shared and multiplied, can uplift an entire community. It's about working together, supporting one another, and accelerating each other's growth. He not only talks about breaking free from limiting beliefs, but also putting this philosophy into action. He believes in the strength of our immigrant community, not just in festivities, but also in the serious realms like job search and career advancement. It's time for us to collectively rise, to contribute, and to create a significant impact. Join us as we delve into his journey and discover the potential of unity within the immigrant experience. Let's unlock the immense possibilities that lie within a cohesive and supportive community. Please welcome Varun.
Oh, thanks. What an introduction, Gurasis.
Absolutely. Very happy to have you on the podcast, Varun. Very excited for this conversation.
Yeah, excited to be here.
Okay, so let me start by asking you tell us about your favorite inspirational quote or saying that resonates with you the most.
The favorite quote that I have, but I have a hard struggle following it, is a quote from Bhagavad Gita, which says, "The will is the true friend, and the will is the true enemy."
Hmm.
I am paraphrasing, and obviously, I'm using a translation
Yeah.
of the Bhagavad Gita. But yeah, that is my favorite quote and something I strive to do because I think it all starts from how we direct our will.
Hmm. So you said you have like a story behind it. Tell us, like, why would you say that?
The struggle that I've always had is we've been told to kind of balance things out.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're trying to do something productive, when you're trying to create something, then you have to bring it through your will to bring it out to the world.
Hmm.
So I think of that as the will being my friend.
Mm-hmm.
But then at times when I want to be a sloth and just relax,
Yeah.
um, that time I I don't know whether the will is a friend or an enemy. So it is a constant struggle. The constant struggle is also to know whether this is something that my will wants to do. And so it's a I don't think I'll ever have an answer to this. I think it's more of a journey. And only recently I've become more comfortable with
Mm-hmm.
things being more of a journey than a destination because the destination is so esoteric and
Yeah.
so it's so far ahead or not in my grasp that if I just focus on that, then things in the present start to get stuck.
Yeah.
So focusing on the journey, and only recently I've gotten more comfortable with knowing that okay, I'll have to do this for good to to see where this goes.
Yeah, I think it seems that it's comes from the experience and the famous quote, no, it's not the destination that matters, it's the journey that you go through that actually matters. So yeah, I think we'll definitely talk a little bit more about it in the later half of the episode. But my next question is, tell us this about this one habit that you have adopted that has changed your life.
Investing in myself, that has been the biggest eye opener,
Hmm.
and I'll share a story with that.
Sure.
uh, it was 2014, 4 years into my US immigrant
Yeah.
experience. Till then, I've been living with roommates. I'm having a great time. I was able to land an internship pretty soon into my education, 2 semesters after 2 semesters. So life had been great, going great so far. Was traveling, had a really nice fancy car.
Hmm.
But then I got married, and then I had to move into an apartment of my own. had a dependent, my wife,
Yeah.
who was with me, and for like a year I had to buy new furniture. So there were so many financial expenses that hit me like a wave, that I was like,
Yeah.
the American experience or the American life that I thought I was living, which is have a job and then your life is set.
Yeah.
Well, it's not set. And you need to figure out how to create a living worthy of your dreams
Mm-hmm.
for your partner as well as your future children, which I now have two of.
Yeah.
And I was confused. I didn't know where to go. I knew that getting better at work was much different than getting better in school. In school, you know, okay, what you need to do to get the A grade,
Yeah.
and it's like a Google Maps. Whereas here, in your career, you'll be fortunate enough if somebody gives you a compass.
Mm.
Forget the map, forget
Yeah.
the which direction to go to.
Yeah.
I don't know if you'll ever get a compass unless you go find one for yourself.
Mm.
What happened then was I luckily fell into a couple different entrepreneurs that I was following online,
Mm-hmm.
where I was trying to save money. So I fell into this book called I Will Teach You to Be Rich by Ramit Sethi. It's a New York Times bestseller, really good book, in my opinion. $25 that can
Mm-hmm.
save us or help us earn hundreds and thousands. And I'm not being hyperbolistic about it.
Mm-hmm.
But the whole effort of saving money
Mm-hmm.
kind of led me to start investing in myself more, reading books.
Mm-hmm.
And then at one point, I started to realize that there's only a limit to how much you can save. You need food, you need shelter, you need to be in a good neighborhood,
Yeah.
you need to have stuff to wear. And one of the things that Ramit talked about is that when you hit that limit of saving, you need to start growing your income.
Mm-hmm.
And that changed my world completely, because not only did I invest in a bunch of entrepreneurship courses after that, the entrepreneurship courses taught me mindsets and psychology that I needed to improve and work on myself to get to where I am.
Well, definitely, I think all that has helped you start your own entrepreneur journey for sure. But also, you talked something about having that compass, which can direct you in the ways. And don't you think it also starts from our childhood? By that I meant like until the 12th grade, we know that okay, we have to go after 10th grade, we have 11th grade, we have 9th, 10th, whatever. But after 12th, you are kind of just thrown out right there, and you are like, we don't know what to do. And I think at that time also we do need that compass, and we try to navigate them, and then coming to a new world altogether. In your case, like moving to US, definitely like a whole another battle we must be fighting, right?
Absolutely. And if you'll notice, when we go from schooling from first grade to 10th, if
Yeah.
you're in the same school, if you're in the same
Hmm.
ecosystem, when you go to 11th, things completely change, and you kind of have to
Yeah.
create the same ecosystem for yourself. If you don't create an ecosystem, then you're starting to kind of lose out on grades and stuff like that. Definitely happened with me, where I was doing decently well with till my 10th standard. 11th and 12th, I think the aura of going to a college and just having
Yeah.
fun and things kind of changed completely
Hmm.
for me for a few years there. Um, so yes, that every time your ecosystem changes, you kind of have to recalibrate. But still, college provides that roadmap.
Hmm.
Is that all right? You need to go and hit these grades, and to hit these grades, you need to study
Hmm.
so and so syllabus, and you need to finish your assignments, and you have to show up on time.
Hmm.
So that is still better than our careers, where
Yeah.
there is no exam, there is a performance review, but you hardly ever know what goes into the performance review, and it's a lot more
Yeah.
complicated.
And it's also fascinating how our mind just adapts to these new ecosystems also. Like it's like building a muscle. You get to learn and survive in that new atmosphere wherever you're kind of like just thrown into. And that's just fascinating to me.
Yeah, it's our mind trying to figure out things, how to survive, and
Yeah.
then we'll think about how to thrive. That's what the first year of coming to the US or Canada is, that first survive,
Yeah.
and then once you survive, then you can try to thrive.
So, speaking of high school and the growing up years, let me take you back to the time you spent in India, specifically in Mumbai. Tell us a little bit about your growing up years and what were you doing before you moved?
It was fascinating. Where we grew up is a lot of luck. And I consider myself extremely lucky to be born in a city like Mumbai,
Mm.
because a big part of my fabric is that city. My confidence, my sense of humor, if I have any,
I think you do,
uh,
yeah.
it's all it's all part of that culture. That culture taught me how to travel on my own. That culture taught me all the different festivals, because it is such a cosmopolitan
Hmm.
environment that you kind of have celebrate so many festivals around you. And that I was blessed to be born in that city. And childhood was pretty good. We were middle class, lower middle class family. So we did see struggle with money. However, the struggle was not like basic shelter, basic food.
Hmm.
It was like a step above. So it is a different type of struggle, because you are healthy, you are loved, you are cared for. And now you are wondering, okay, how am I get ahead in this world, or how am I able to
Yeah.
improve my standard of living
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So saw my parents work really hard as entrepreneurs, as stationery shop
Hmm.
owners, and knew that that was not the path I wanted to take, because it was so much hard work for not a whole lot of money. So then I knew that I wanted to kind of go into engineering, because my dad had was a civil engineer, but walked out of school.
Okay.
And there was always this talk in the house. Fascinating. I'm making this discovery for myself right now in this podcast. So thanks
Of
for that.
course.
There there was always a talk about that in our home, that, oh, if he had finished civil engineering,
Yeah.
if he had finished civil engineering, life would have been different.
Yeah.
And I think that has always made the connection for me and drove me towards mechanical engineering and automotive engineering. And then I did that, pursued it, and was able to live a really good life because of it.
But that wasn't like your desired career, I believe. If I just rephrase it, I would say that what was your dream career growing up, if not that?
I would say that was my dream career,
Okay.
really, if I'm being completely honest, because I really loved physics. I loved engineering. Yes, I became wavered in my drive, in my focus during junior college, a little bit into my engineering college
Hmm.
as well. But when I was the last 2 years, when I bought everything back, when I was focused, I enjoyed solving numerical problems. I enjoyed all of that. It was definitely my dream job. And have worked in that domain since the last 13 years.
Hmm.
What has shaped my external personality is a lot of being in classes. Like I've done a lot of taekwondo. I
Okay.
have danced with a big troupe in India. I've
Really?
done acting classes,
Oh, wow.
you name it, and I've done things, and that has shaped my personality. But all my north star had always been becoming an engineer, and it could very well be because of that strong drive to make an income, and hearing that, oh, if my dad had finished engineering, life would have been good. So
Yeah.
I'm sure there is a part of that as well,
Yeah.
but I won't say that that was a strong enough part where I needed to change or curb my desires, because I was part of a really loving family.
Hmm.
My parents are very modern. In fact, my friends would joke that, dude, your parents are like American parents.
Okay.
They gave me complete freedom to follow anything. So it has still been driven from inside, this whole engineering world. But
Hmm.
just thought I'll give you some influences around me that kind of shaped my
Yeah.
personality.
And I was thinking that how being in Mumbai, the dance, music, and films did not influence you. So this explains that it did. It sure did.
Yeah, it did. And I wouldn't say it was as pervasive when we were in school. Pervasive is, I don't say it with a negative
Hmm.
connotation. There are so many kids in Mumbai, and there are millions of kids in Mumbai, and not all. And I would say even 5%, 10% might be
Hmm.
influenced by all the by the Bollywood side of things,
Yeah.
because Mumbai has other characters as well. It's like there's a lot of finance
Hmm.
world in Mumbai. There's a lot of manufacturing. Um, there's travel, tourism. There's
Yeah.
there's a whole lot happening in that city. which is why it's called the city of dreams for us, for India,
Mhm.
because you dream it and you can make it happen.
Yeah. And do you like still pursue any of those, like dance or acting or anything? Do you do? Have you done anything?
Come Garba time, I am definitely in my
Oh wow.
element.
Okay.
I have stopped choreograph. It's been a while since I've done any choreographed routines,
Hmm.
but yeah, dance is a big part for us family. We put on music sometimes, and we'll dance as a family.
Yeah.
It's a big part of me, and I'm not just saying this because I'm talking to you, but I would love to do bhangra classes sometimes because
Okay.
I love that, and also that's a form that I haven't learned yet.
Okay.
Garba I've learned contemporary jazz,
Mm.
ballroom, etc. But I think I've never been into like Indian dance forms like Kathak
Okay.
and stuff like that. My wife is. I don't know why I've never been attracted to that. But when it comes to an Indian dance form, Bhangra is something that I'm definitely attracted to.
Sure. Next time, if we are together in the same city, we'll do it for sure.
That will be awesome. I
Yeah.
would love to.
So if I ask you if you have to, let's go back and relive a certain age or a certain moment from a childhood or just growing up years, which one would it be?
Obviously, there are many happier times, or
Hmm.
my whole childhood had been really happy, so I could go anywhere and have a really great time. When it comes to just my growth as a person,
Hmm.
I would go back to seventh standard. I think after seventh standard, things started to become a little bit difficult catching up in eighth, ninth, and tenth because my focus wasn't there. So I would lose out on some days of schoolwork. And when you lose out on some days of schoolwork, especially during like 8th, ninth, and
Yeah.
10th standard, it kind of starts to snowball.
Yeah.
And for a period of like 5 years, my confidence took a hit because I was a really good student till
Hmm.
seventh. I wasn't focused after that, so it took a hit till like second year of engineering, where I actually failed that year.
Hmm.
And then when I failed the second year of engineering, I got relaxed again, not because I failed and it was a big deal and it was like a turning moment for me. It wasn't that. I was focused again because I just had to clear like four exams.
Hmm.
And that focus kind of helped me get back into the groove of things. Not having to go to college gave me the time to kind of set systems and everything, put tuition classes. So I was able to get control back into my life.
Hmm.
And then since then, I've not let that control go away. So I would say eighth standard, the start of eighth standard is where I would want to go back. If I could go back with all the insights that I have gained so far,
Yeah.
oh, that would be such a kick-ass moment.
I'm sure about that. Yeah. So you also mentioned that how your parents were very modern and your friends used to joke about that. How do you describe yourself as a parent now? How do you think you are?
Oh, that's a tough one. I think as a parent, I'm a little hypocritical.
Okay.
What I mean by that is I kind of force my child to have a certain screen time,
Hmm.
to eat in a way that is healthy for her,
Hmm.
to do things that are more productive
Hmm.
while not doing many of the same things that I'm asking. I'm some days I'm binging Netflix. I just watched Beckham's documentary
Okay.
like back to back because he was one of my favorite footballers. And so, yeah, there's a little bit of that. So that's something that I'm working on. But other than that, I think I'm following on my parents' footsteps. Is that you might not be able to provide everything to them, but what you can provide is being there for them. That I am a anchor or a solid person that they can come to, and then that they are loved. Loved is a big one for our
Hmm.
family. Showing affection, expressing affection, that's something that we do on a daily basis.
Hmm.
So I'll give you the good and bad.
Okay. And do you think if your parents would have not been the way they were, your life would have turned out to be a little different? Do you think so?
If I look at my friends who had more conventional
Hmm.
parents, I don't think life has been different for them as compared to me.
Okay.
I think what was different was because I was given the freedom to make decisions and to make
Mm-hmm.
mistakes, I am now able to start and learn things very quickly.
Hmm.
Because since I was given that freedom, this summer, if I wanted to do tennis classes, which I have done,
Mm-hmm.
I would do that. Next summer, I would go and do football classes.
Mm-hmm.
The summer after that, I'll go and do table tennis. So, what has helped me in that case is I don't fear starting something or being uncomfortable
Okay.
when starting something, and I catch up to things pretty quickly. I'm not saying I get great at it, but like the initial burst of getting good, I'm able to do that quickly. And yes, the difference between good and great is huge. So I don't mean to say that I'm delving into things like and becoming great, but just understanding, okay, these are the 20% that will get me 80% of the way there.
Mm-hmm.
And then investing in coaching and stuff like that, because I've always had
Mm-hmm.
that, is something that I do a lot differently than I think my some of my peers who had conventional parents.
Yeah, I think for me also it would be the fear of trying a new thing. It's like that having that fear of judgment that what if doesn't work, what if it doesn't turn out to be wrong? What if I wasted my money? So that fear was also within me growing up because I don't think so I have the most modern parents, and I think I don't blame them. They're the product of their own time and they were trying to pass on what they knew. But I think one thing which I think I've seen myself evolved in is this only, that not having that fear of trying the new thing. Give it a try. If it works out, great. Doesn't work out, it was an experience. So that's all.
Yeah, absolutely. What I also feel is that there's a dialogue from this movie Dil Chahta Hai,
Yeah.
where Akshay Khanna is sitting on the beach with a girl who fancies Amir
Yeah.
Khan, and he talks about like sand in your hand, that the more tightly you press it, the sand starts to kind of flow away.
Yes.
Where some of the friends that I see, because they were held
Hmm.
so tightly, they were the first ones to go away from things and try crazy stuff and have a crazy life because they were escaping from that
Mm-hmm.
tight grip that they were in through school, through college. So it always reminds me of that
Hmm.
sand in your hand analogy from Akshay Khanna's dialogue, is that the more tightly you hold something, the the more easily it kind of escapes
Yeah.
from your
Yeah.
hands.
No, I love that. Great analogy. I think you explained it perfectly. Awesome. So, Varun, let's just pivot towards your decision to move to US. Tell us what influenced the decision and how was the process for you like?
So, since childhood, I have been inspired from people ahead of me. I don't mind following their footsteps. I get inspired by people who are cool, people I like, people I adore. Where during my engineering, I saw a friend of mine, but mainly my cousin brother,
Mm-hmm.
who came over from Mumbai to Northeastern University, if I remember correctly. And he was the one who led the way for me as to, okay, this is possible, this is a route. So he, like me, had failed 1 year in the university,
Mm-hmm.
had caught up, and I was able to get into a really good school.
Mm-hmm.
We grew up together because he would visit his nani, which was my dadi, and we would spend summers together. So we've had crazy fights, and we are still pretty close. So he was kind of the person who modeled this for me, where he came to the US to study. I was always influenced by US culture, listened to rock music, watched TV series. So I was
Mm.
already influenced. And then I saw my brother going. He would share his experiences with me. And I was like, okay, I want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And I was in my, I think, third year of engineering when I gave my GRE exams.
Okay.
And I scored well, was able to come into a university here and get 30% scholarship on intuition. So everything was lining up to say, okay, yes, this is the right move.
Hmm.
And that's what I did in 2010.
Yeah. And how was the process for you? Like, how long did it take you to prepare the files, visas, and everything?
That was one other advantage of me failing after my second year. So in that
Okay.
drop year, the first 6 months, I cleared all my uh, failed subjects. I was actually able to clear them well enough where my GPA was starting to get very healthy.
Mm.
And then in the 6 months after that, all I did was prepare for this GRE exam and watch movies. So to give you another example of the coolness of my parents is that when I failed for that year, they obviously asked me to get serious, to get more focus. But my parents said something that I'm still baffled by, which they said, nobody is going to give you a vacation year in your life.
Mm.
Nobody is giving you 1 year of vacation in your life.
Yeah.
Enjoy this if you can.
Wow.
And it was so surprising to hear because, again, it encouraged me to, yes, let's finish all my subjects in 6 months. Then I have 6 months to just play football, play Counter Strike, and watch movies.
Mm.
And that's what I did. I did all that, just gave my GRE exam in the middle. So that was the end of the drop year. The third and fourth year went into applying to universities, getting recommendation letters, making sure my GPA was healthy enough where
Mhm.
colleges would accept me. So that was that 2 year span. I obviously used a consultant that was very popular in Mumbai. I
Okay.
had a great time with them and his company, and they helped me immensely to transition here. So they are a big part of my journey here as well.
So tell us about your first day, your initial thoughts and emotions when you landed in 2010. What month was that?
I've shared this story before. It was September. I'll share a story of my visa consulate appointment.
Okay.
You know how you go for like the visa appointment, and everybody's nervous around you. It's a big thing getting
Yeah.
a US student visa. Uh, One of the but I was lucky, I guess, where the counselor office was really chilled. She asked me about my university. Everything went very smooth. When I was leaving, she said, make sure you carry a winter coat.
Okay.
It is frigid in Michigan, because I was coming
Hmm.
to Michigan.
Yeah.
Everybody in Canada will relate to this, I'm sure. So that was my that I was taken aback. I was like, okay, this if she's telling me, and she doesn't need to tell me.
Hmm.
You know how visa consular officers are,
Yeah.
very terse and to the point. I
Absolutely.
was like, if she's telling me, then I
It
mean
must be
this
cold.
must be serious. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was cold, but I landed here in September. It was a very pleasant weather, but it was a big shock for me going from the buildings, the crowd, the speed of Mumbai
Mm.
to a suburb in Michigan, because you think of US as New York, San Francisco, Chicago,
Yeah.
whereas I would say 5% of US is like that.
Hmm.
Big amount of US is suburban life.
Of course. Yeah.
And coming and landing into Michigan, I don't see buildings around me. There is no
Hmm.
public transport.
Oh, really?
You have to ask your seniors. Very, very bad public transportation, especially in 2010. No Uber,
Hmm.
no Lyft. And anywhere you want to go, if you want to go walking, it's like an hour.
Hmm.
Like, it's ridiculous. Sometimes things are so far away. So you have to get rides from seniors.
Mm.
All through the first year, you're basically depending on your seniors to kind of take you to college, bring you back, take you to grocery stores, take you for a freaking haircut. I had hair back then, I promise.
I believe you.
So it was a big shock in that sense. What was pleasant was the university was so nice. I was having a great time having friends from different parts of India, whereas in Mumbai you have friends from different cultures and different religions, but we are all Mumbaikars.
Mm.
At heart, we are Mumbaikars. So we are not very different from each other. Whereas a person from Mumbai, much different than a person from even Pune, not much different, but there are elements of differences between
Yeah.
people from Pune and Nagpur, which is still Maharashtra. Now you go to Chennai, now you have a friend from Delhi, and it all just changes completely. Bangalore. So it was a great time with friends. It was a great time at the university. Michigan is known for its nature, so it was extremely beautiful to go anywhere. So I had a good time in that sense, and a time of immense growth.
Hmm. Okay. So apart from, it being all suburb and no buildings and no transit and everything, was there something else that completely shocked you about US, or maybe something that you were not prepared for and that you faced that?
I think something I was not prepared for was living with roommates. I had never lived with roommates
Mm.
before then. So that was an interesting dynamic that I had to learn how to navigate, where you want to make sure that what you like in a house, be it cleanliness or order or
Hmm.
food or whatever, you have to navigate that situation delicately because not everybody has the same standards for things,
Of course.
and they are right in their own way. I mean, we all come with internal standards about how things should be, and we had a great time. We were six of us in like a three bed. We enjoyed each other's companies. There were a few niggles here and there, which were, I would say, learning experiences. So
Mhm.
that was one thing I wasn't used to, living with roommates. Overall, I had come in with very open eyes. I had come in with the experience of my cousin who had shared quite a bit with me. He made my transition much smoother. And then I was coming in with an understanding, a little bit of an understanding of the American culture,
Mhm.
having seen the movies, music, and everything. So when I went to university clubs that were predominantly non Indian,
Yeah.
I didn't feel out of place because
Mm.
I was able to bring in pop culture references like my PlayStation video
Got it.
games or the TV series I was watching or the songs I was listening to. Frankly, Metallica was a great icebreaker in
Mhm.
many of the conversations.
Oh, wow.
So overall, I had a great and smooth time.
And did you used to cook? Wasn't that a shock for you?
There wasn't, I had to learn from scratch. My mom taught me how to make dal and rice because
A staple food,
they
yeah.
were cooker stuff. So cooker mein bana liya kind of a thing. There were Indian stores, so we would get frozen rotis, frozen parathas. Eggs was popular during that time, and you would get Maggie and everything. So it wasn't difficult because Michigan does have some Indian population.
Mhm.
So getting all this stuff wasn't difficult, and cooking was fun. It's been a fun journey because now I love baking pizzas from scratch.
Okay.
So that's one thing I'll say is that if I was in India, I would not have learned these things because you get everything handed
Yeah,
to you, not from your parents, but you might at this point everybody has some kind of help
absolutely. Yeah.
at home. So you are getting everything handed where you don't need to kind of learn these things. You go, you walk 5 minutes, and you have 10 restaurants to choose from.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's insane that way. So I'm actually blessed to come here and experience my joy of cooking something,
Mm.
and it feels so good, right? Making something from scratch. Not only you are feeding your friends, you're feeding your family, you're feeding your kids. Such a really great
Mm.
feeling. So yeah, I enjoyed that.
So let's talk a little bit about your experience of studying in the University of Michigan. And I asked this because when I moved here, many of my friends or even my teachers I was in, connection with, then they used to ask me that how's the experience was for you like, how is the work culture there, or how is even like how the teachers come and teach you and everything, all that was asked me. I want to ask you the same question. And one of the biggest differences was obviously calling our teachers by their name and not saying sir or ma'am. But tell us about your experience.
It was fun. We used to call our teachers like professor so and so.
Okay.
So that wasn't different. What I loved was that how relaxed the atmosphere was.
Mhm.
I was in a school which brought in a lot of professionals to the master schools because it was so close to like Ford company and GM and stuff like that, that people
Mhm.
from those companies after their work would come and study with us.
Yeah.
So these guys were tired, man, and they would come and they would have to eat something in class, and they would be they would be eating
Yeah.
something while the professor is teaching, and they understood it as well. So that was very unique experience. Like it was very relaxed.
Mm.
There were no desks and stuff like that. There were just rows of chairs and benches.
Hmm. Yeah.
That was different. That was fun. And then the focus on um, creativity in your assignments, I think that was an interesting one where you didn't get a very
Mm.
strict prompt, or you didn't get all of the data that you need to solve numericals. You were told to use your
Hmm.
creativity, assume things, assume situations, assume scenarios, and do those assignments. So that was a lot of fun.
So another thing that you have mentioned earlier also, that during your masters you got your internship, and you always say that it was an amalgamation of many different factors, and one of them was luck. Tell us about the other factors, and along with that, something that you have done. The one that you were telling me is attending those cultural fairs, which international students might hesitate to go to.
Yeah, I got an internship after 2 semesters, which is when you are eligible to get an internship in the US. I got one right away. And the three big factors were: one was luck. I was extremely lucky. Nawal Ravikant talks about this. He's not the originator of this concept, but there are four
Hmm.
types of luck: there's blind luck, there is luck from motion,
Hmm.
there is luck from awareness,
Hmm.
and there is luck which is unique to you.
Hmm.
The surface area of luck increases with each. So I was extremely lucky first. So there was some blind luck involved. But then I also tried to increase the surface area of luck by motion more than anything else. And I can look back now and tell you in those ways. I was obviously not able to articulate that during that time.
Yeah,
But looking back, luck was a big one. But the two ways that I increased the surface area of luck was: one, I used whatever resources that I had available to me. So going
mm,
to career fairs, using career services in the university. Like if they would have a resume seminar, I would go there. If they had a networking seminar, I would go there. Then there were mock interviews that they held. Even if you were a
mm,
mechanical engineer and they were only bringing people from IT, they would still encourage you to attend mock interviews, because that one mock interview taught me so much about how I'm answering things, the tonality that I'm using, the confidence that I'm coming in with.
I bet.
So that was one thing, using all the available resources that I could have. I would add one more thing in that, is that I was part of the Formula SAE team, which is a racing team in the university. So
Mhm.
many university clubs that you can go to. You can find a club for your interest and just go in and start work. So that's number two. And number three was walking that extra mile. So this was April 2011, and it was still cold in Michigan. So you don't want to go out of the house if you don't need to.
Mhm.
And my roommate said, "Oh, there is a career fair like 40 minutes away from us, at the SAE World Congress, which was this big event in the auto
Mhm.
industry." And you are lazy, it's exam week, and none of your roommates show any
Yeah.
interest whatsoever. So the drive to do that is extremely low.
Mhm.
But he kept on saying that, oh, it will be fun to go, or it will be good for us to go. And there was an added element that we would have to convince a senior to take us. Again, no transportation. So you had to
Oh,
convince
yeah.
somebody to take you 40 minutes, stay with you there throughout the day, and come back. So we were able to get a lot of help from this senior. He took us. We did that career fair, and one conversation struck. And for a job, that's all you need, right? You need one job. So one
Yeah.
conversation can change your entire trajectory. So I went there, had one conversation with this Fortune 500 company, which I didn't know about, but was a big company in the auto industry. And they called me in for an interview. I was given the internship, and that defined the first year of my work experience in the US, that internship. And it bought me so much. It bought me
Mhm.
financial stability,
Wow.
it gave me instantly mentors in the industry, and it gave me so much confidence that I was able to achieve this for myself, knowing full well that a big part of that was luck. Having roommates, having a senior, being in the right place at the right time, all that combination led to that internship.
Well, I'm not sure about luck, but I think it was definitely your will again to do that, the will to really
Yeah.
making that effort to try to go to that career fair. And look at that today, hindsight, it benefited you. You actually got the internship, and that was, I would say, the base of the job that you did eventually, right?
Absolutely. The internship that I did is what I did for the next 12 years because
Oh, wow.
that was my dream job. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
yeah, a lot of things change, a lot of the domains change
yeah,
because a car is a big thing and there are so much technology in it. So I changed technologies to keep fresh. But yes, the advanced engineering part of it was what I based my life on.
yeah, yeah. I mean, definitely, I think if listeners, when international students are listening, they know this is like a great example. I think you're definitely like a testament to all those people that, hey, you really have to walk that extra mile and make that effort and instill that will in you to do the thing, then it will happen. As long as you make the best use of the resources as well, in your case, like you're there that you have. And I think when you move to a new country, especially, we are so fixated in getting the program done, making sure the we get the right work permit, and make sure we get like some job that help us with the PR. Yes, it's necessary, it's very important, but I would say, if you see the bigger picture, it all starts from the very first step that you take, and you really have to put everything, give your all in. Just try, just ask for even that help. I think sometimes we even hesitant to ask for that help, that, okay, I don't know if the person will help me or not. We have that hesitation, I think. But now, this is the time that the worst someone can say is no. As long as you don't ask it, the answer is always no. So go ahead and try your luck.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely true.
yeah,
And sometimes you need a buddy, to be really honest. You need
yeah,
when two people are asking a senior if you will take me 40 minutes away for a career fair, it's different than,
yeah.
me
Asking,
singularly
yeah.
asking. I will have a lot more friction if I need to do that. Guruji, share me about your experience walking that extra mile, or if you have a story about that, I would love to know more about it.
Hmm. I would say it was mostly during my job search. Like, I would have just applied to tons of jobs online, or maybe fill those online resumes and everything. But the funny thing is, I actually didn't know how to get into pharma advertising, which I am in right now. Whereas I was just trying to get into advertising, maybe the FMCG, maybe those big brands, and all those commercial advertising. And I didn't know about PAB, which is the pharmaceutical advertising and everything, the health authority that we have to go through. I had no idea about it. I got to know about PAB only because I walked that extra mile of reaching out to people on LinkedIn, asking them like what is their day-to-day look like. And I stumbled upon this one person from McCann Canada. McCann is one of the ad agencies. I stumbled this one person. He was, I believe, the account executive or coordinator, the similar role which I want to get into. And he told me that you have to know about PAB. And I was like, PAB? I don't know anything about that health authority. So that's how I got to know about it. And look at me now, like after 2 years, now I work in pharma advertising. The only if I would have stopped myself from reaching out to that person, I would have never be able to know about pharma advertising. So yeah, that's how I think I would answer that.
It's very cool is that I think when you walk more, your destiny happens to you.
Yeah.
It's like you need motion for destiny to walk in, which is
Yeah.
interesting because I guess it comes back to the start of our conversation, and you brought will again, which was so
Yeah.
interesting. Is that it all boils down to that actually.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, if you're enjoying the content and conversations we bring to you every week, we would love for you to join our growing community. Make sure to follow us on all major podcast directories, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or wherever you consume your podcast. That way, you'll never miss an episode and you'll always stay in the loop with the latest insights and stories. And speaking of staying connected, I always encourage you to follow your heart, but also us on Instagram. The handle is My Thick Accent. We'll be sharing a lot more behind the scenes content, some updates, and some even fun sneak peeks. So give us a follow and let's engage even more closely there. And to all those who provided their feedback and input, thank you so much. It truly, truly shaped the direction of our podcast. And I would love to hear from any of the new folks who joined us today. Don't hesitate to reach out with any thoughts, ideas, or even suggestions for future guests. Drop us an email at hello@mythickaccent.com. Now let's get back to the episode. So then, Varun, you decided to move to Canada. But before that, tell me, you spent 9 years in the US before you decided you moved in 2019 to Canada. Tell us something that you might have discovered about yourself in those 9 years.
In those 9 years, the biggest discovery was that I wanted to be an entrepreneur.
Okay.
Now, being a Gujarati and having entrepreneurial parents, you might be surprised as to why that was a discovery.
Mm-hmm.
But seeing my parents work so hard had kind of pushed me away from entrepreneurship because I thought it was
Mm-hmm.
so insanely hard to make a living that I was working 9 to 6, relaxed in an AC, air conditioned environment,
Yeah.
clicking things using my brain, and I was making a decent living.
Mm-hmm.
So why do that route? Why go that route?
Yeah.
But I think what pulled me towards entrepreneurship is learning from mentors. So, like I said a few while back, I follow my heroes. I have
Mm-hmm.
learned from them. I get inspired by them, and my cousin was one who came here, but through that 2014 financial struggle, through going from saving to earning, the mentors that taught me all of the things that I rely on nowadays are were entrepreneurs.
Mm-hmm.
They had their own companies. They were teaching people, creating transformations in people's life,
Mm-hmm.
either by their coaching or by products. And here I was in my engineering work, doing something that may or may not see the light of the day 5 years from now,
Yeah.
because it was an advanced engineering project. We were
Mm-hmm.
trying to create new technologies. It's very fulfilling. I'll still love that work. It just does not have the element of me seeing the impact of my work on a end user. It's
Mm-hmm.
just the process is just too far off.
Yeah.
So that, in combination to seeing and getting inspired by my mentors, thought, oh, I would love to be an entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
And from 2016ish, I would say, to 2019 when I moved here, that 3 years were discovery into what kind of entrepreneur I wanted to be, because you can start a SaaS company, you can have a high growth startup, you can be a consultant, you can be a
Yeah.
freelancer, you can be a coach. There are so many ways to do this. I'm sure
Mm-hmm.
you know all about all about that. Where I needed those 3 years to discover, okay, what exactly I needed to do, and then that's where the genesis of BeyondGrad came into being.
Mm-hmm. Since you mentioned BeyondGrad, let's just talk about that. You started that in 2018. But before that, I believe you did do a lot of self development courses and some workshops. I believe workshops at Alma Matters. I
Yeah.
heard you talking about that. So tell us about all that, the prep that went behind starting BeyondGrad.
Yeah, so since becoming an entrepreneur and wanting to be an entrepreneur was so new,
Yeah.
I had systems and frameworks that I learned from my
Hmm.
mentors, and one of them was to do discovery, was to ask people, okay,
Hmm.
what are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? If you had to come to me to solve a problem, what would that be? And I would get confidence a lot. I would get inspiration a lot. I would also get mentorship a lot. So I was like, okay, if those are my strengths, I know that I've gone through this whole process of being a top performer at work, or going from an international student to being where I was in my career till that point.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, well, how can I translate that? So my friend and I, again, having a buddy helped so much.
Yeah.
My friend and I did an AMA, Ask Me Anything, at our
Hmm.
university, University of Michigan Dearborn, and we wrote funny emails, and I had fun with it. And we got people together in this room,
Okay.
and these were all international students who were going for their master's degree, and they just started asking us questions. So we had these buckets where we started with personal finance, we did uh, getting a job, we did
Hmm.
thriving in a job, and then we did travel and
Hmm.
fun topics. So we did a bunch of that in our first AMA, and it was such a fun time. I had memes in my slide. My buddy
Okay.
is a fun guy too, so we were having a great time while giving actionable insights to everybody in the room on all these different topics.
Hmm.
So I got a high from that. The reviews were great. I did post workshop surveys; those were very encouraging. So then I was like,
Hmm.
all right, let's do this again.
Hmm.
So we did one 2016 December. Again, that went well. So I was like, okay, I know this works with students. Now let me try and bring my peers in. So what I did was hosted a workshop for negotiating a raise, which is different than negotiating the job offer. Negotiating a raise,
Okay.
because I wanted to catch people who were already in their jobs.
Interesting. Yeah.
And I was so encouraged that not only did some of my peers show up, which I thought was insane, because generally you want to learn from somebody who's ahead of you or you feel is ahead of you.
Yeah.
But my peers showed up, extremely encouraging. My seniors showed up.
Hmm.
Some of my seniors who thought that, okay, Varun knows this, maybe he's one step ahead in this domain. Sure, I have more experience, but they showed up ready to learn. And that was, I think, I would say, inflection point where I was like, wow, if people I know and my age or even senior to me are willing to put in their time, come to a different location and learn
Yeah.
what I was the one thing that I could help them with, then that changed the game. And I knew that, okay, I need to start beyond grad, focus on careers. And I didn't focus on an immigrant students. That was one mistake. I should have been niche from the very beginning, because I could bring a lot of my immigrant personality to it.
Hmm.
But you make so many mistakes building stuff, building businesses, and I'm okay with that. So that's the
Hmm.
genesis of Beyond Grad. I did many more workshops, and that gave me material to create my website and write blog post articles.
Hmm.
Things kind of were okay in the sense I wasn't putting as much time because I still had my day job. Became a father in 2017 for the first time.
Hmm.
2019 we moved to Canada. 2020
Yeah.
everybody knows what happened. So pace had been okay so far, but this year I think I went all in on LinkedIn. Started to share a lot more of what I was trying to teach immigrant students and immigrant professionals, and have been shocked by the results that I've gotten in terms of the people following me, which I would not have guessed that 30, 35, 36,000 people would follow what I'm writing from the start of this year.
So tell us, our listeners, briefly, very quickly about like why in Canada you came up and starting this and did not continue in the US.
That is a big pain point of immigrants in the US, is that there is no easy way to start a business. There's just no easy way to do it. If you are an H1B employee, which I was, uh, having an income on the side is confusing legally. So you don't want to take that risk.
Hmm.
You can apply for an H1B through your company,
Hmm.
through create a new company. Then you need somebody in a decision making power that can hire and fire you, and then apply an H1B through that company. But a big caveat there is that your business has to be in the same domain as your study.
Mm.
Beyond
Okay.
Grad wasn't in the same domain
Not at
as
all. Yeah.
as automotive engineering. So again, this theme of following people before you. I saw a couple of my friends come to Canada because they were just fed up of the US immigration process. And I was like, oh wow, that's interesting. They are in Canada. Being in Canada, you can do everything. On a PR, you have so much more flexibility. I was in a border city, so again, destiny, kismet, whatever, luck, whatever you call it.
Yeah, yeah.
I was able to keep my job, move 30 minutes away from where I used to live, and now I have
Hmm.
all the freedom to do whatever I want to do.
Yeah,
It's insane how that works.
yeah.
It's just, I'm just 30 minutes away. I'm closer to some of my friends now from living in Canada, closer to some of my friends in the US than I used to
That's
be
crazy.
when I used to live in the US. So that's the biggest reason, to build something and not be restricted by my visa for it. I'm still working with my US company, still going through the whole green card process, which is I'll be a grand I'll have grandchildren before I'll have my green card. That's what I call it. GC before
Yeah.
GC. So it's insane how that line is. And I'm still in it, but I am loving my time in Canada since 2019.
I love that, GC before the actual GC. I love that. That's funny. This one thing which I have heard people saying a lot, especially after pandemic, is believing in people who have actually walked the talk. And I believe that you are doing this beyond grad because you have actually walked the talk and you have done the three main things that you focus on. And I'll quote it. Those are like the on the courses that help people find jobs. Second is getting promoted at your work, and then starting a side hustle. And you were telling me earlier that you have done all that and you have gone through all those experiences. Tell us, if somebody who is joining Beyond Grad, who is taking up your courses and started working with you, what can they expect from the program?
So one thing, caveat I'll say is that I've only
Hmm.
started to productize recently. So yes, if you want to get promoted, I have a product for you. If you want to find jobs, I'm actually launching my first
Hmm.
job search cohort for students in October and for professionals in November. So first, I needed to build these systems to for somebody
Hmm.
to come and learn from it. Freelancing, I still have to, or earning a side income, I still have to create a course for it. So I wanted to kind of
Hmm.
lay the expectation
Okay.
before answering that question. What I would say is my intention is to help you boost your income with intention. I was able to boost my income in these three ways:
Hmm.
find and create my dream job, getting promoted at work, where I had a partnership stake. I had a lot more flexibility that I love. And then earning on the side. I have earned $30,000 from freelancing in a completely different field,
Okay.
marketing and copywriting, ever since I came to Canada and I was able to do it. Essentially, use my entrepreneurship courses and help other companies implement those systems. So I have, like you
Yeah.
said, walked these three paths. So I'm going to share my experience walking those three paths. Plus, I've been in this so long that I have other examples to share as well of other people who have walked one of these three paths. So I am a lot about community learning, like I've said in this episode, of all the entrepreneurship courses I've bought, the mentors I've had. So I bring all of that in along with my experience
Hmm.
into these three paths. What I would say is invest in yourself, know which of these three paths you want to pursue, because each of them are so difficult that you
Hmm.
can only focus on one, I think. And then ask me, if I want to do X, what should I do? And I will have a bunch of free stuff to kind of help you to see if you want to do that, or to kind of get your feet wet. And then I have courses that you can pay for where we go in depth into the job search, the promotion, and hopefully pretty soon
Hmm.
on everything related to side hustles
Hmm.
as well.
Well, sounds incredible. I'm sure it's going to benefit a lot. And I'm also kind of tempted to join it now. Why not?
Awesome. Yeah,
You know?
absolutely. Especially, I don't know if you are looking for a job or not, but in terms of promotion, one thing I'll share that a lot of us immigrants don't value is the soft skills.
Hmm.
What I call that, the analogy I use is of poker. I love playing
Yeah.
poker, but the technical skills that we bring are like table stakes for the table. It's your buy-in. It's your big bet and the small bet. You need your technical skills to have a seat at the table.
Yeah.
But to win, you need to use your soft skills to play the game.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And the second analogy I use in that, once you have kind of put yourself in the mindset that I'm at the table because of my technical skills, but it is my other skills that will help me thrive at the table. I use a concept called cardinal points of
Okay.
promotion. So, cardinal points of direction are north, south, east, and west. Same way, there are cardinal points of promotion. You need to walk and develop people
Hmm.
skills, communication skills, mindset skills, and entrepreneurial
Love
skills
that. Yeah.
to become a top performer at your work. And that is what will help you get promoted or create
Dream
your
job.
dream job. And that's what I teach in my courses, cardinal points for
Yeah.
promotion.
I love that. And I also, the thing that you said about soft skills, I think it's the technical skills that get you the job, it's the soft skills that keep you at the job. So tell us where people can connect with you.
Two places I would say on LinkedIn. First of all, if you want to follow my posts daily, I write actionable posts. I was joking with somebody, why would somebody want to follow somebody daily? But the confidence that I got from other person is that, dude, you write actionable posts, and I love reading them. So I'm taking confidence from him to say, if you want to follow my posts daily, LinkedIn is the best place to find me. Varun Negandhi. I am probably one of three hits having a unique surname. So you will find me easily, and you can follow me there. If you want to ask me questions, subscribe to my newsletter and just reply to one of my introductory emails. I am much more active via email than via LinkedIn because I am flooded sometimes from LinkedIn messages. And then you can obviously go to beyondgrad.com and see the promotion course that I have on offer. And if you are part of the newsletter, you'll know the job search cohorts that I'm going to start soon.
Okay. So for my listeners, all the links to contact Varun can be found in the show notes. So, Varun, since speaking of LinkedIn posts, the ones that I read so far, I think I love how you bring some amazing analogies, and you do bring that humor as well, which is just amazing, and it kind of keeps you hooked on the posts. And I want to talk about like few of them, and starting with the first one where how I stumbled upon your profile. So one of my I think listeners was kind of engaging with your post, and I'm connected with them on LinkedIn as well. And that post was regarding the question behind the question, decoding the question behind the question, where you said that meme of andaz apna apna, ek sawal do jawab and everything. So that's the few humor part you kind of bring in. And I want to tell us about that post a little bit. And one of the examples you said, which I'll read it from here, is you said that why do you want the job? The question is this. But behind that, what they're asking is, do you really care about the job? Or you just applied here to get any job? This was like one of the examples you gave. Tell us more about that.
Any behavioral question that you get in an interview, there's a question behind that question. So, like you said, tell me about yourself, for example.
Yeah.
That's the first question, but the question behind the question is, are you able to articulate your passions succinctly? Do you know anything about my company, and are
Hmm.
you able to align your skills with my company? Do you like this role that I have on offer? There are these questions behind the questions. And the meme about Andaz Apna Apna
Yeah.
comes back to like my time in Mumbai, where Mumbai is very cutthroat in the sense that your friends will rib you to no end.
Yeah.
They will pull your leg till your leg becomes sore, and you do the same.
Yeah.
You do the same as well. So
Yeah.
it's not bullying, or it's co-opted bullying by
Yeah.
everybody, where we are all bullying each other, and that's our way to show that we care about the person, we are close with that
Yeah.
person. You don't pull somebody's leg if you're not close to that
Absolutely.
person. So I always bring my friends to mind, and in when I'm writing these posts, I can't do this every time, but I'll be like, okay, if my friend read this, he'll be like, "Are kya paka raha hai?"
Yeah.
Or "Arey, why are you boring
Yeah.
me?" So to keep myself entertained and to keep my reader entertained, I kind of bring elements that add some fun. Yes,
Yeah.
it's a serious topic, it's an important topic,
Yeah.
but I don't want to read it and get bored myself, or I don't want to write it and get bored myself. So it's a element of me entertaining myself and the audience while sharing something that is extremely actionable and important for me, which was there's a question behind the
Yeah.
question. Answer the question behind the question, because that's what will get you the job.
So this is fascinating, right? Something, a perspective you bring in, I see in your post that people might not see. Again, like sometimes it's the same thing which everybody says, but it's just the way sometimes you frame your post is something that keeps people hooked and it stays with you. And I think we all have learned from stories. Speaking of our histories from Mahabharata, Ramayana, and everything, we kind of like grown up in the stories and all that thing stays with us. Those lessons stay with us. So that's the really like amazing part about your posts.
And it's part of us, right? The story of Ram and Sugriv.
Yeah.
That's what I use for to share how there is you need leverage in any
Hmm.
negotiation. Without leverage, you have nothing.
Hmm.
Ram wanted Sugriv's help to go to Lanka and fight with
Yeah.
Ravan. Sugriv wanted Lord Ram's help for to help his to defeat his elder brother Vami. Forget that. Not top of mind. But yeah, to defeat his elder
Yeah.
brother. Both were bringing in something, and both needed something from the other person.
Yes.
And when you have that leverage, is only when a negotiation is a win-win.
Mhm.
If one party has more leverage than the other, they'll have a bigger win than you. Like companies have more leverage than job seekers. If you don't know how to play leverage,
Mm.
then the companies will dictate terms. But if you are confident, if you're a top performer, if you have sexy indifference, is something that the smartless podcast guys talk about, the sexy
Mhm.
indifference. If you have that, all those leverages, then you can bring in data and that leverage to kind of work with your company to get to a point where it's a win-win for you both.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So another example of how I am weaving my childhood, the stories that we've learned, to share concepts that I had to learn for myself, and I'm just trying to pay it
Yeah.
forward.
And then the another post was, regarding the Ganesh Chaturthi that you said, we celebrate the festival Ganesh Chaturthi, and it is when we celebrate the birth of one of our Hindu gods, and how you were supposed to make that idol, that murti. And that's you brought that example and you said that how we stop ourselves from those various constraints and really have to look past that. So talk a little bit about that as well.
I am creative in my ideation, and I'm creative when on my computer creating slides and stuff like that. But tell me to draw something, and you will be reminded of that horse meme. You know, where the tail and the back legs start
Yeah.
really good, but by the time you reach to the face, it's like a freaking line drawing. You don't even
Yeah.
understand. I am that person, the line drawing that you might not even understand what's happening. So I was not creatively inclined at all. But Ganesh festival is a big part of our
Yeah.
family. And ever since I moved to the US, I wasn't being able to celebrate it with the same gusto that I was used to back home. But Shirali, my wife, came into my life. She's very creative. She's really good at this. So she saw one of my friends making a murti from clay,
Hmm.
and she started to make a murti from
Hmm.
clay. So it was great. I got that feeling back where we had the murti, we would celebrate for the 10 days. It was a blast. But then our first child was
Hmm.
born, and the child needs the mother a lot more than the father. So she couldn't put in that time to create the murti, and we were sitting on the dining table just discussing what should we do this year. Should we skip? Should we just put our mandir's murti and pray to that? Um, she was like, why don't you make it? And I kid you not, I thought it was a joke. I thought she was pulling my leg. So I started laughing. I was like, what do you mean I make the murti? But she looked at me and she was serious. She was like, why don't you make it? And I was flooded with all my emotions about not being like a good artist, a good drawer, a good sculpt. I have never sculpted anything in
Okay.
my life. So I was like, there's no way I'm going to do this. But there was a constraint. We wanted to celebrate. My wife couldn't create the
Yeah.
murti. I could have either stopped myself from that constraint, or I could have tried to create constraint, use constraint as
Yeah.
creativity, is what I call it. And we decided that I would create something. If it was not good, we would not show anybody, just keep it on the side and just.
Yeah.
But that whole experience of sculpting something, and it was my first very basic effort where I took a bunch of balls. One ball was the stomach, one ball was the face, one ball I
Mhm.
flattened out and made the hands. And it was very basic, but the joy that I got from creating it, and the pleasure that even Shirali saw me having, I've been the one creating the murti since
Oh,
then.
wow.
So my first time to what I think was this one, this time was my fourth time.
Mhm.
I am surprising myself. I'm not saying I'm great, but I'm surprising myself because that constraint has helped my creativity go from these bunch of spheres put together to kind of putting in a lot more complexity and having four hands, which I was surprising myself. I was like, what's happening? So yes, constraints hold us back, or constraint can be used for
Yeah.
creativity.
I love that. Love this example. And I encourage our listeners to definitely follow Varun. You will not regret following his pose. You definitely learn a lot from it. And I'm 100% sure those will stay with you. So, Varun, before we get into the final segment, I just want to talk very quickly about this one thing we discussed in our earlier conversation, which was about losing that crab in the bucket mentality. We in India have like a certain way of working. We are all driving solo, and we don't have the culture which is a little bit in Canada right now, when which I stumbled upon, was where people are willing to lend that helping hand. And if, especially we immigrants, if we come together as a community, that can actually act as a catalyst for each of our success. And I want to talk a little bit more about that and share your perspective on it.
So I don't know what your experience was coming up where you were brought up in Amritsar. I don't know how your experience was in school and stuff like that. Mumbai was extremely competitive. To get into the first team in
Yeah.
sports even was so competitive. You are competing at everything: sports, classes, awards in classes, the best grades, top ranks. You're competing in everything. We have such a competition mindset right from schooling to college, that when we come here, we bring that with us, where we use secrecy. We don't share things that we think can give us a leg up.
Hmm.
Now, we will share everything that is status
Yeah.
related. We will share the new car that we bought.
Yeah.
We will share the price of the new house that we bought. But sharing the salary that we have, or sharing the systems that we use to kind of maybe grow at work or find the job, we hold it. We are very secretive because we don't want to give somebody an
Yeah.
advantage. But I think life is different in the US and Canada,
Hmm.
first of all. And life is different in schooling versus in life. Schooling is kind of like a zero sum game sometimes, because you're fighting for one
Yeah.
position. Whereas life is a positive sum game. Like Gurusis can be a CEO, and so can I.
Hmm.
We might have to have different companies and everything, but everybody can achieve success in our professional careers. So that's the mentality that I think we need to stop, where we are it's like a crab in the bucket
Yeah,
analogy where none of the crabs can go out of the bucket because we ourselves are pulling each other down. That's what something that I think we need to switch, where more of us immigrants need to share the uncomfortable truths behind things,
absolutely.
need to share a lot more of our path, so that not only can the coming generation learn from it, but our peers are encouraged to open up a bit more. Like, you won't imagine the number of people that have come and talked to me about things, my friends, my peers, about job search, about promotion, about salary, that they would have never shared with a soul. So I think a lot of us need to kind of have more abundance mentality and share it.
Yeah. Another thing which you mentioned was, around the same concept was that not only limiting our sharing to the festivities, the celebrations, but going beyond that as well. And the one that you were saying was regarding the job search. Tell us, like, how did you get the job? How did you grow in the job? Or how did you even get this job? Or help us even given like a referral if possible.
Absolutely. It's where even when we meet in a social setting, we are talking about, like in the US especially, you're talking about green card priority dates. You're
Mm,
talking about which stock to buy and which stock to sell. You're talking about travel. But very seldom you're talking about, okay, this is a struggle that I'm having at work
yeah.
and this is how I solved it. So if you have a struggle at work, this is something that you can try. Or sometimes you can take a step back and just say, hey, this is what I'm struggling with at work.
Yeah.
Can anybody help? We don't do that. We hold our vulnerabilities to ourselves because we don't want to give somebody else a leg up.
Mm, yeah.
Whereas it's not competition, it's community. So we need each other. And what sucks is that all of us are learning the same thing by our own.
Exactly.
Everybody's getting promoted like a decade into their career. If they want to be a people manager, everybody's becoming a people manager a decade into their career.
Yeah.
Whereas, and we are all learning by our own. But if you could kind of share all that insights, we might get there in 6 years. We might get there in five. Some people might look at that and say, I don't want to be that. I'll just be a tech specialist. Somebody who's a tech specialist will say, oh, yeah, this sounds
Yeah.
interesting. I might look into becoming a people manager. So it sucks that we are doing the same learning on our own, whereas we could kind of come together and reduce the time it takes to get there. And that's the mission of Beyond Grad.
Absolutely. And like I said in my intro, if one person's knowledge, if shared and multiplied, can uplift an entire community. And I think it's about time that we all work together, support one another, and accelerate each other's growth.
And I'm seeing that movement where I see a lot of brown people, immigrants, talk about immigrant life and raise the collective volume on all of these things. And I think this is just the start. It's going to
Absolutely.
be even more amazing down the line.
So, Varun, now let's just get into the final segment of the podcast. I call it Beneath the Accent because we are knowing each other beneath the accent. I'm going to ask a couple of questions. You can answer them in one word or a sentence or however you feel like. The idea is just to know more about Varun. So, ready?
Yeah.
So, first is the classic question. What advice would you give to Varun, who is in the initial months of landing in the US?
Invest in yourself by money or by time with mentors.
If you had to describe yourself as any creature, what would it be and why?
Oh, this one, I've thought about this one. Elephant.
Okay. Why is that?
First of all, Ganpati. So I have some affinity towards
Okay.
elephants, being a big fan of the Ganesh festival. And I think I like that they have memory. I don't know if I have memory would be a strong point, but I don't know. I think affinity towards that animal, and I like that they are part of the jungle. You say that elephants kind of, yes, lions are the king of the jungle, but elephants kind of maintain balance in the jungle, something like that. And that's what I love
Okay.
about it.
Name three things on your bucket list.
Three things on my bucket list. One is to sponsor my parents' Europe
Okay.
trip. That would be, they've been thinking and talking about Europe from a really long time. So that would be one. The other would be to take my kids on a
Hmm.
safari. That would be awesome. The bucket list is always going to be travel. I don't know why.
Sure.
And I would say the third item would be going on a photography tour, just by myself, solo photography tour.
Okay.
That would be a big bucket list item.
Love that. So, who's your go to person when you feel stuck?
My wife.
Okay. What's the most unusual or unique food you have ever tried? And did you like it?
I tried sushi once, vegetarian sushi,
Okay.
and I'm a vegetarian. I liked it, but I don't think I've not gone back since
Okay.
to eat it. So I guess that gives you the answer.
Okay. If you could swap lives with somebody for a day, who would it be?
Sachin Tendulkar. I would love to see how it feels to be Sachin Tendulkar. I mean, the only thing I know about him is through interviews and books. It would be cool to see life from his vantage point.
If you could write a book for your life story so far, what would you call it?
Surface area of luck.
Very interesting. Okay. Do you think of writing a book though?
No, not yet. I but you brought up that question, and I was also impressed by the answer. So maybe I need to look into
It is a good
look into
answer. Yeah.
that. Yeah, because luck has been a big part, from blind luck to the different types of luck that I've shared with
Okay.
you.
If you could be a contestant on a reality TV show, which one would it be?
So you think you can dance or dance India, something like that? That would be very cool.
So all those dance reality shows.
Oh
Okay.
yeah, it would be awesome. I wouldn't go far. I wouldn't go far because the dances are insane, man. But it would be cool to be a participant.
If you could create any law that everybody has to follow, what would it be?
Everybody has to invest. Everybody have to invest 2% of their income on personal development.
So lastly, describe Canada in one word or a sentence.
Home in diversity.
Okay. And the same question for the US. How would you describe US?
Self growth.
Okay. If you could leave me with one piece of advice, what would it be?
Do more of what you are doing
Mhm.
with more intensity.
Okay. How would you describe your experience of being on the podcast?
Amazing. Enlightening is what I'll say. And I'll share why. We decided on a 1 hour
Yeah.
conversation, but have gone in a long
Yeah.
conversation. And I shared this during like a break we took, is that I have talked about topics that I have not articulated in either past podcast episodes or with my
Mhm.
friends or with my family. So it has been enlightening to even learn more about myself through your questioning. So really, thank you for that. Grateful for that. Um, Questions about my family, questions about what kind of book I would write, or from there to here. I think it's been an enlightening conversation for myself. Sometimes you need to say things out loud to kind of internalize
Hmm.
things.
Okay. I love that. Thank you. Thank you for being on the podcast and thank you for being so open and sharing everything about your life. So thank you. And thank you for adding value to my listeners. Thank you, Varun.
Appreciate that. I hope they love it. And if they have any other question, feel free to reach out. Thank you, Gurusis. Appreciate it.
Hey, listener, thank you for making it to the end. I highly, highly appreciate you listening the podcast. Subscribe to the podcast if you haven't as yet, and please share with your friends or anybody you think would like it. And like I always say, we encourage you to follow your heart, but also us on Instagram. The handle is mythicaccent. You can also leave us a review or write to us at hello@mythicaccent.com. So stay tuned and let's continue knowing each other beneath the accent.